So oftentimes when I go shopping, I see price breakdowns where you have a product listed as $40, and today's issue is I was putting in some pricings for some products, and they were listed as 40, 68, and it doesn't make sense to me as why would someone would list it as that when we can easily just either round up or round down. Would you happen to know answer that, Ken?
Well, so there's three general pricing models that most companies use. The most common being cost plus. So what this essentially says is, look, this product costs me $50 to make. I need to have a 20% profit margin on top of that. Therefore, my cost is X, right? And that could be, hey, our pricing model says that we need to have a margin on this because of the cost to produce and et cetera, is all of our costs plus we want to make 15.25%. Right? So that's how you can get some really weird numbers in pricing sometimes. The other side of this, though, is the psychological side of pricing. There's been a ton of studies about the prices ending in 99, 95, and 97. Right? I mean, who's gone to Mod Pizza recently? Cosmo? Been to Mod Pizza?
I've recently been to Mod Pizza.
Right? What are all their prices at it?
99.
No. Mod Pizza, everything ends in sevens. Sevens. $7.47 for a pizza. $8.47 for a pizza. $2.07 for a drink. Why? Statistically speaking, people spend more if a price ends with a 7 versus if it ends with a 9. The 99 thing was just a convenient way 50 or 100 years ago to break down money, right? To sell newspapers and that kind of thing. But this whole psychology behind, well, what feels more expensive? Something that's $9.95 or something that's $9.97? What do you think, Bill? Have you ever spent more because it was such a good deal than
Well,
you
yeah.
would have otherwise?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know where you're coming from with the whole, 99, the 99 thing. It's like, something's like, where can you get a TV for under $400, and the old Tom Peterson commercials, you say, here at Tom Peterson's for $399, and it's like, well, you're saving that $1, but you're not at 400, you're at the 300 mark. They hear 300 instead of 400, and it just sounds better. But yeah, the whole 97, I've seen a lot of that like on Amazon, but I've never really consciously thought about it. 97 sounds good. It's just versus 99. I don't know what it is.
Well, so here's my question: when you're buying something, let's say you're buying, something that's cheap, it's $3.95, right? In your head, when you're thinking about this, does it cost you $4 or does it cost you $3?
$4.
$4? What do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, it costs you $4, but you hear the 3, and it's better than hearing the 4. I think it's just that, I think it's just a subconscious thing, where, you hear that initial, versus 5,000 versus 4,999, or 4,995, which even, you just hear that initial, the big numbers working downward is my take on it.
What do you think, Cosmo? When you hear something that's $3.95, does that cost $3 in your head when you round it, or does it cost $4?
I usually come to think of it as $4 because these days people hardly pay in change. And so when I usually go shopping, I'm always thinking of rounding up to the nearest dollar because I don't want to spend the time counting out change these days. And this is very much like an Americanized concept because, say if you go to Europe where they use a lot of the euros are actually in coin amounts, so you have $1 euro, and you can. It's way more easier to pay in the coin amount, so people often carry around a lot of change in euros in coins, because things are often rounded in tens or fives. It's not having a 1 cent euro isn't a thing there. So maybe we should just outlaw the penny. Maybe
Yeah,
that's a
what would that
discussion we
mean to
need to
marketing
have.
though, you know? I mean, because then you have to be, yeah, I mean, when you count, I mean, yeah, I understand you definitely go and you, I mean, $4.95 is $5, you know, when you're actually dishing out your money and you're thinking about it. You know what I think? I think it's just a whole sound thing where you hear the numbers and it just feels like you're spending less, even though you're really not. You know, it's a nickel, you know, and I think that's the whole, one of the reasons why that's, I mean, like you said, it's a 50-year-old thing. It's been around for a long time where you just, you know, you just drop that dollar, you drop that nickel, that 3 cents, whatever, and it just sounds better, even though technically when you're doing the math, you're still spending, you know, yeah, okay, $4.97, you're still spending $5. You know, it's just pennies. And
So this question, I first asked you guys, how much does it, do you think you're spending? My question now is, how much does it feel like you're spending? When you see something that's $3.97, $3.95, let's go even really crazy. Let's say that we go to Mod Pizza and the pizza is $7.47. Does it feel like you're spending $8 or does it feel like you're spending $7?
Yeah, I think once you have an amount where the cent is like under the halfway line, 150 cents, then it will feel like you're rounding down, so it'll just be $7, even though it costs more than $7.
Do you think that it's just the halfway mark, or do you think it could push higher than the halfway mark?
Yeah, it pushes higher.
see a lot of like 65, you know, 765,
Right.
you know.
And that feels like $7,
Mm-hmm.
right? I don't think there's any like I don't know about you guys. I sometimes I get to a place and I'm like, oh man, that's $6.99. Man, that's a good deal. Whereas $7.99 feels so much more expensive than $6.99. Because one is so much closer to $5 and one is so much closer to 10.
Yeah. And we're less likely to count change anyway, you know, I mean, whether it's, you know, 65 or 97, you know, it's change, you know.
Yeah. So let's talk about other pricing models though. So it's not just cost plus. That's one easy way to do things. Another interesting way to do it is value added. Right? You guys heard of like the term value added reseller? In many ways, that's kind of what we are. Right? Anyone could go to Google and do it themselves. Right? They could, I suppose, go to Infusionsoft and figure it out themselves. They could go to WordPress and certainly figure it out themselves. Right? There's nothing technically that we do that someone with enough time and gumption couldn't figure out, I suppose. Is that reasonable?
Yeah.
But we bring something to the table that's more than just our time. Right? We add value by experience. Right? This is the difference, I think, between a commoditized and non-commoditized product. Right? So let's think about the ultimate. What would you guys say is the ultimate commodity? What's something that you've never said to yourself, I'm willing to pay more to get a better quality?
You should provide an example.
It could be anything. Let's say something as simple as, I don't know, dry erase markers. Have you ever sat down and considered what's the best quality dry erase marker we can get?
Oh yeah, I mean you do that. Yeah, I mean that's why people look at like ratings and you know or reviews.
On dry erase markers?
No, well, not necessarily dry erase markers, but you know anything you go to buy, like electronics, you know for sure.
Right, but our electronics aren't as commoditized. That's what I'm saying. What are the things that are so highly commoditized that the only thing that matters to you is how cheap it is?
Yeah.
I disagree because, like, say this pen, I would go out and buy this pen because it writes better than any other pen.
You know that it writes better when you buy it?
No, I've experienced it. Like
Right.
I used this pen, say in the office, and then I'm not gonna lie, this pen writes better than all the previous pens used, therefore I'll go and buy this pen.
Okay.
And at that point,
What about sugar? Let's take sugar. Let's take granulated white sugar. That's a commodity, right? Are you more likely to buy C&H or Kroger?
sugar.
But you just said the pen
Well,
right
this matters. The pen, the
So-
quality, the feel of it between
That's
my hands.
that's what I'm saying, right? Is there are certain things that we have commoditized, and there's no value based on who's selling it. We're simply saying what is the lowest price, right? Flour, eggs, milk, sugar.
Care about my milk.
Care about your milk.
Care about my
You don't care about your sugar, but you care about your milk.
my sugar.
Okay. What about you, Cosmo? What are some things that you buy strictly on commodity?
Books.
Books. What kind of books? Like textbooks?
Mhm. I mean, I don't care if things are written in any, that adds value because now I know the important parts that are highlighted.
Then you can't resell the book for as much.
If I'm buying a cheap textbook, I'm not looking to resell for them.
Well, you can't. I mean, if you buy something used, like in the case of the book, you pay $5 for this book. It's already used. It's still worth $5 because it's already depreciated. I mean, unless he tears pages out or something.
That's a good point.
What are some things that you think are just pure commodity?
I don't know. I always. I'm a bargain shopper. You know, I just,
Okay.
I don't.
What do you look at? What are things that you're not willing to look for bargains on?
Things that I'm not willing to look for. No, I really, I seriously, I
Everything?
everything.
You're willing to go to the lowest price that anyone has to offer on anything.
Well, unless it's junk. I mean, like I said, I'll still look at like the reviews on it, but I am a very careful little shopper. You know, when
Okay.
it comes to buying anything.
So that's what
Oh,
I'm
well,
asking.
no way, I
What,
can't
what,
say that.
what determines when you're going to look at a review versus not? Because I don't know about y'all, I've never looked at a review on a brand of sugar
Mm.
or a brand of flour.
Yeah, that's stuff you just go. Well, I mean, still you're in a store and you're looking at the best price. You know, I mean, like if
Right.
you look at sugar, it's like you can get this sugar and it's just the house brand and it's 50 cents less. I'm gonna buy it.
Then talking about house brand versus like pure cane sugar.
Right. Well, as long as it's a 1-to-1 correlation, we're dealing with commodity, right? Meat is often a commodity, right? No?
You can taste the difference in meat.
Well, you certainly can, but do most people buy meat as a commodity, or do they buy it as a something that provides additional value based on the amount they're spending? Now, if Derek were here, I don't know where Derek is right now, but let's say he were here, I think he would answer that question. He would say, we spend more money on a higher quality of food. Right? Maybe we buy organic food even. Right? But I guess that begs the question, if I had 2 stalks of celery that are both equally fresh, one is half the price of the other, and they're both, all things outside of this being equal other than price, are you not always going to choose the cheapest one?
You are until that celery that you buy turns out to be bad.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. If all things are equal, we can know a commodity because we're never willing to pay extra for it. Right? What was the last brand of celery you bought? Exactly. Your mother would be ashamed. Don't buy celery. Whereas other brand names, Samsung, Sony, JVC, Panasonic, right? Kenwood, right? Those things will wait. We say, oh, well, this might be made more just because it's made by Sony. Right? Could have the exact same set of features, but because of who manufactured it, whose brand is on it, we associate more value. Right? So when we're talking value added, right, we're not simply saying, hey, I'm going to price this based on, my cost to manufacture plus a certain margin. Rather, I'm pricing it at how much value we're bringing to the table by selling this to you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Let me think of another pricing model.
What was that?
What's another pricing model?
I
Go with your gut.
Go with your gut.
What do you mean?
Price it with your gut.
Well, that still typically falls under cost plus,
But
right? If you were to talk to 9 out of 10 people, like if we're just, in fact, maybe we should do this. We should go to 10 different shops. How did you arrive at the price for this item? 9 out of 10 are going to say something to the effect of margin plus, competitor's price plus, or competitor's price flat, or competitor's price minus, right? But that's all still ultimately falls under the cost plus. There's really only one other major pricing model, and I would argue it's the rarest.
which is
Who guesses? Cosmo? You're a college graduate.
Not a business or accounting graduate.
Fair point. It's name your own pricing.
Oh.
Bargain.
Huh?
Bargain.
What do you mean?
Bargain for a price.
No, more like
Almost like
when Radiohead. I think it was Radiohead. They released a new album online, right?
Mhm.
And they told consumers that they could download it for any cost,
Oh,
right? And some people chose 0, and some people chose 400, right? But you're letting the consumer decide the value of that service. So imagine you go to a restaurant. There are restaurants like this, where you go and you sit down, and after you're done eating, you decide how much to pay for the meal.
please do tell what is the name of one restaurant that does that.
I know.
I have yet to come across one.
They're more in Europe. Although there are certain Panera Breads in the Portland area that on their menu they actually say suggested pricing. And what they do is they basically allow people to come in who can't afford to eat there to pay what they can afford.
I will pay attention next time I go to Panera Bread.
Not all of them, but there's a few of them that do that, or have done that in the past. There was a news article. I think there was the one in the Hollywood district was the first one that like they made the Oregonian for that, and it was part social enterprise, part great marketing.
Mhm.
Because what they found was, I mean, think about this. If you knew, hey, this restaurant's going to feed 50 homeless people today, and if you're willing to pay $2 extra for your meal, that helps them do that. You willing to do that? You don't have to say yes just because we're on camera, right? But a certain percentage of the population is willing to say, oh yeah, we'll pay a little extra for that.
It's like that pizza shop in New York that did the whole sticky notes. If you want, so if you can't afford it, come in and grab a sticky note, and then they'll give you that pizza because it was paid for.
Yep. Same general concept. Is so consumer based or consumer set or name your own pricing. There's another pricing model that's out there, and it's one that I think is underutilized. Right?
Because I think it's underutilized because for you to establish that price, you need to do like marketing or whatever. But if you just open up a business and do the build your own price, concept, if you don't set like parameters or like that, the suggestion pricings, you wouldn't succeed as a business.
How do you
Yeah.
know? How do you know?
Because people are manipulative.
All people?
Not all.
I mean, are you manipulative? Are you willing to go to that restaurant knowing, hey, this probably cost them, $4 to make? In all likelihood, I'm going to say that their time is worth an extra $3 from me, but I'm only going to pay $1.50.
No, I wouldn't do that.
So who's manipulative? Right? I think where this breaks down is if I don't have to go pay somebody. Right? Like if I'm a restaurant and I make it so that you have to bring the ticket to me and hand me the amount of money you think it's worth, that's radically different than if you had to leave that in a box.
Yeah, because you have the psychological thing.
Right? Because there's some peer pressure to that. Right? Now imagine you took clients out to lunch and staying your own price. Are you going to pay more or less? What do you think, Cosmo?
You're paying for the client?
Yeah. You're going to pay more or less than if you were just paying for your own.
Well, if I wanted to impress the client, I'd pay it.
What do you think, Bill?
Yeah, I mean, you don't want your client to think you're cheap, you know, so you pay more.
But you're a bargain shopper!
Yeah, well, then I'd probably just not take them to that restaurant.
Right? So pricing, I think, as a marketing strategy is just underused. Like, it's one of the 4 Ps. Right? I mean, it's classic marketing 101. Product price. But we don't really talk about it a whole lot, or most agencies don't. And I don't think most business owners put a lot of thought into their pricing.
Because they want to secure that profit. Be confident I will have that profit.
But how
Would it be that?
I don't know. Why do...
So why didn't you set up your business to be name your own price marketing?
I've done it. We've literally done that here. We don't only do that, but we have done it just to see what it's like. And I think it's harder with a non-tangible product. It's harder with a service. Like we had to call a plumber over to the house. Children like to put things down toilets. Right? Things that shouldn't go down them. Right? That plumber comes in, he brings in a tool, he clears it in less than 10 minutes. How much is that worth to me? Well, if I were to name my own price, I might say $50. Because you were here for like 10 minutes. Now for him, well, my time is worth $125 an hour. Right? And I have a whole arsenal of specialized tools in my truck, etc., etc., etc. Right? And so where name your own pricing I don't think works well is where there is a disparity between perceived value and an actual cost. Or where there's a big gap in supply and demand. I mean, think about it. If you've got a product that's radically highly in demand with very little supply, and you let the consumer name their own price, unless it's an auction, name your own price, right? The consumer is likely to become the new retailer.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's exactly
Right? Is if at Christmas time I could buy the new PS5 for $3 and resell it for $400, right? Or if I can buy Super Bowl tickets for $10 and resell them for $2,000, right? There has to be parameters. There has to be some protection in place for the seller. There you go. There's some thoughts on pricing.